4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
Hey, welcome back everyone to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan of On Purpose Media, where we have good conversations with good people, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk. So cheers, gentlemen. Billy, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you. I got my drink in a coffee mug this week because I'm in an Airbnb, and it's not the nicest place, but we're staying in a condo down the street that didn't have Wi-Fi, so I had to rent myself an office space. So you make things work. Awesome. Well, this week we've got none other than Billy Stevens. He is the founder and CEO of Sera Systems and BillyGo. He began his career in the trades with no experience whatsoever. Him and his wife quit their jobs, bought into an HVAC company, and they hit the ground running with most of their staff walking out the door after they purchased the company. So he started right from the bottom and grew the company, which he was at, called Berkeys, which is a large HVAC and plumbing company out of South Texas, battling through those initial struggles to 100x growth. One of the most impressive numbers that I heard you say is that you had 24% net profit year over year with double-digit percentage in revenue growth using only yellow pad technology, which I thought was absolutely fascinating and a tremendous feat. Back when the phone was hooked up to the wall still, and no one was using cell phones, no one was using emails. So that is a tremendous feat in and of itself, to now running BillyGo, which was really created to be the platform company to showcase your new product, which is Sera. And I know it's not really a new product anymore. It's still relatively new, but a lot of people have heard about it. It's making waves across the industry, and you are definitely creating a lot of attention around what it is that you're building there. So we're really excited to have you on the show today, dive into Sera, and really dive into some of the core principles that allowed you to achieve what you have so far in your career as an entrepreneur within the trade. So thank you so much for joining us, Billy.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate hanging out with you guys today for the next hour or so.
Absolutely.
Gonna be fun.
We're definitely going to get into it while you're braving the Canadian weather that you're having right now in South Texas. So
I think it's probably worse here because we're not used to it and we don't know what to do with it. So
absolutely. You have no idea what to do with it.
Yeah, we shut down around here.
Awesome. Well, why don't we get into it? Tell us a little bit about that journey and getting started in the trades with literally no experience whatsoever, and purchasing a company and just driving straight into ownership.
Oh, absolutely. So I moved to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which is in North Texas from South Texas. And I went to work for a home builder, and I basically was a superintendent on site. And the plumbing company, Berkeys, that we were using, unfortunately, the owner passed away at a very young age. I think he was about 44 years old. And so they were unable to actually give us good service. You know, we had some houses to build and we needed plumbing put in them. And so I went over there and said, look, guys, I need you to come do these 3 houses I just sold. I need you here next week. And how's everything looking? And they said, well, we can't get there for 3 weeks and we're going to raise your prices 20%. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to let you guys go and I'll find another plumber. And 2 weeks went by. I couldn't even get a plumber to look at my blueprints, to even give me a bid. So on that 3rd week, I went there with my tail between my legs and apologized and told them I was sorry, and asked them if they could go ahead and come out next week like they told me 3 weeks ago. And they said, nope, we took you off the board. It's 3 weeks from today. And you will pay the 20%. And I said, interesting. I don't have any money, but you think she'd sell this thing? And lo and behold, just maybe a month or two later, we were able to negotiate it with her financing the majority of the loan of about $225,000. My wife and I had saved roughly about $5,000 or $6,000, if I remember right, and my father-in-law loaned us $10,000 for cash flow, and he co-signed on the note, which I didn't know. What we had to get from the bank, the part we had to get from the bank. They said, "Oh yeah, we'll do the loan for you." And then I went to the loan to close and to the bank to close, and they said, "Well, where's your father-in-law?" I'm like, "I don't know. He's probably at work." And they go, "Well, we don't need your signature. You don't have anything." And so I had to call
father-in-law right there.
He sure is. I mean, so not only did he give me $10,000, I had to go and ask if he would actually put his name on the line for me for the entire amount. And he did, thankfully. And through some due diligence of our own after we bought it, not before we bought it, we found a lot of accounts receivables that had been unpaid, and met with one of my friends that was an attorney, and we filed, we did a right to lien these properties and took them to these home builders that owed us the money. And lo and behold, every one of them paid us. And effectively, we got paid $45,000 to buy the company at that point, because we got paid everything that we bought it for, plus $40,000 more. So we were basically off to the races, and I didn't need his $10,000 anymore. So we took them to this real fancy steakhouse that just opened up called Outback. And for the first, yeah. And think about it, this was like 1996. I mean, this is
okay. 96. That would have been fancy. That would have been fancy.
Right. Yeah, it was fancy in 96, and the steak was like $25. So it was pretty high, and or maybe $20, whatever it was. And we bought their dinner for the first time, and we gave them their $10,000 plus 500 interest back in 3 weeks. So,
not a bad return.
Right?
Yeah. And he says, "Well, I didn't give you the money thinking I'd ever get it back." And he tried to hand it back to me. And I said, "Look, I'm going to probably need it again, so hang on to it." So he was kind of my savings account, which fortunately I never did use again. So nice. That's the great part. But yeah, so we did that. And then, we walked in the first day, and about half of the people there started leaving the business that worked there when my wife and I were standing there telling them we were new owners and how we were going to, do everything we could to make this successful. And, they just started leaving. And little to our knowledge at the time, we realized why the guys that left actually took half of the business with them. They already knew what was going down. And they had already taken a lot of the business with them, because those builders were familiar with those guys. Right.
Right.
And so it could have been a disaster from day one. I mean, but I'm an eternal optimist. So I felt like, well, we had half as many people and half as much business to deal with, so maybe we could get our arms around it quicker. And that was kind of how I rolled with it. Right. I didn't beg anyone to come back. I didn't call these builders and tell them I'd do a better job. I just let it go. And we started with the people that stayed and with the builders that stayed. And I didn't take very long to find out that I did not want to do new construction plumbing anymore, because I was always in that battle trying to get my money. And we started doing service, and it went from 1 truck to 2 trucks. And then I learned about flat rate pricing probably 6 months to a year after owning it, probably like 97, 98. And it was the light bulb that really, that went off, that really made me start thinking about, hey, this could actually work. And that was the catalyst for, all the innovating that we did after that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so I guess walk us through that first initial experience there, where you walk in and half the team walks out, because a lot of people can hear that story. They hear the success of turning a profit essentially month one off of buying a business. And that in itself is extraordinary, especially when you have no experience in running a plumbing company. But now you're walking in and half your staff walks out the door. You turned around and said, well, we've got half the business now, and maybe this is going to be a little bit more manageable.
Yeah.
I guess walk us through a little bit of that mindset that it takes to see a shitty situation and then try and find the positive in it and act on something, as opposed to sitting there saying, whoa, woe is me.
Yeah. Hey, one little thing I forgot to add here. I don't think I've ever brought up on any other podcast, but in that one little house, it was basically a house that this business was in. On the other half of the house was a gym. And here we are at 6:30 in the morning talking about who we are. And in the gym, there's all these guys lifting weights and grunting and yelling and doing all this stuff in the background. And that's basically what we woke up to that morning. It was just everything that could possibly go wrong. It was just
gross.
And we had to let them stay there for 6 more months before we could take over the front half of the building. So, and the building was only, I swear the building was only like 1,800 square feet. So wasn't very big at all. But,
oh man.
So, I'm just an eternal optimist when it comes to, situations that put me in jeopardy of losing a business or not raising my family right or whatever it is. I learn from my mistakes, or I learn from adversity. And it's been the best teacher for me my entire career. I can remember when we're at our worst and tell you how I fixed it more than I can tell you what I went and bought because I was making money, right? It was more about how did I fix this problem and actually make it not back to where it was? How do I take this problem that took me backwards 2 steps, but not how do I get back 2 steps? How do I get 3 or 4 back by this lesson that I've been given? And that's how I was able to maintain composure during all this negativity that was going around. And really and truly think about it. I just had half the payroll that I needed to make. So there was a positive. And half the insurance or whatever. I don't think we had insurance or anything back then, but you know what I'm saying? I just started looking at, okay, this makes it half as or easier because it's not so big, I guess. And it wasn't a big business anyway. It was just, it was half as much to handle with no experience.
But and it's like the no experience part of things, and we hear this quite a bit, the tech turned owner, and how can they run a business or they start their own business? I mean, you obviously came in and took over business, but no business experience. So if you were to look back and learning from your mistakes and the biggest lessons that you take out, if you were to think back to that and somebody's coming to you and says, okay, I have a business, I'm ready to take the leap of faith, or I'm a tech, I want to become a business owner, or, in your case, buying a business, what would be the biggest thing that you would tell them to learn?
Oh my gosh, financials. By far the number one thing. And that is the biggest thing I can say here. I was fortunate that the bankers took a risk on me, and the junior banker for the president of the bank, I guess he was the vice president at that time, was about my age as well. He was a young guy. I was in my 30s, early 30s, just probably turned 30. And we were the same age. And he said, one of the conditions is I want you to come in here every month on the 15th of the month with your financials from the previous month. And that right there was really where it all happened for me. And I got to learn what a financial actually was telling me. And by that education, I was able to stop worrying about the revenue, because that's what we all think about, right? I got to get revenue. And he preached to me, he goes, you can chase revenue and never make a dime, or you can chase profitability and the revenue will show up. And that advice just meant so much to me. And whenever we put someone on Sera, we talk about financials. And do you even have financials is the first question. And you'll be surprised. Well, not lately, or, whatever the answer is that we get. And well, we're going to learn how to read them. And so I'll take the time and help them, or someone in our team will take the time, and we will make them hire someone to get their financials. If they haven't done them this year or last year or the year before, we'll help them find someone to get those financials done so that we can get a clear picture of what we're dealing with, and so we can fix it. And just the whole idea behind the software is all the inputs that we use are based on a P&L statement. And so I was a member of Contractors 2000, one of the first groups, a really cool group. And I went out to Seattle and we had a convention out there, and you sign up for about 4 or 5 different classes, to learn more about it. And flat rate was a really big, the new thing that was going on, and we all wanted to know. And so it was a standing room only kind of deal. And the first class that I signed up for was called Break Even 101. And I went in there and they had this really long piece of paper that was like a trifold. Once you unrolled it, it was like a scroll of this formula you needed to do to come up with this flat rate price, this hourly flat rate price. And think about it, 1998 or so, your flat rate price is like $300 when you're out charging $45 an hour. And you're like, this will never work, is what you're thinking in your head. And I went to that class. That was the first class that I went to, and I never went to another class. The bells and whistles were just going off in my head, and I went to every one of the break-even classes and stayed in between to talk to the instructor, because I had way too many questions that couldn't be answered in just one class. Never went to another class. And he actually told me, he goes, if you really want to learn about this kind of stuff, you got to go to the bar. And so, of course, my wife and I, we go to the bar that night and we start talking about it. And, some of the successes we heard. And then, of course, a lot of people still weren't doing it. They just weren't convinced. A lot of the people that were running the Contractor 2000 weren't even doing it, because it was that new. And the funny thing is, I immediately looked at this and put it into place at my office. I didn't come home on Monday and go to the office Monday morning and lose focus from what I learned over the weekend. I actually implemented it. And that's the difference. That's the difference. We get back Monday morning and you start hearing everybody's problems while you were away, that, all your employees are, this happened, and whatever. And you lose focus. You're all fired up. You were there for 3 or 4 days. You come back to the office, you're fired up, and they're all still going, huh? And so you stay fired up. The next day you're 80% fired up. The next day you're 70% fired up. And then a week or two goes by and maybe we'll get to it. I just did it. I just said, I'm just going to do it. They tell me it's going to work. Let's try it. So I implemented that, and we lost. Seriously, we had built up a reasonable sized company. I think we're probably doing about 400 or 500,000 in revenue annually. And we lost 20 to 30% of our revenue when we turned this switch on.
Wow.
And I was very conservative. I did $125 flat rate. I didn't do what it actually said I should do. And people started complaining, and we lost those 25% of them or so. But the nice thing was the 75% stuck around. And so now I had a little money. So I bought uniforms. These shoe cover things were a new thing. Put on shoe covers, cleaned up our techs, and more people started coming, and the business just kept growing. It didn't stop. And it's because I did it. I didn't waste any time. I did it.
Yep.
And we actually stopped flat rating. It's a story. We actually stopped using the flat rating formula back in 2003. No, excuse me, right after 9/11. So about 2002, early 2003. And we came up with margin pricing, and margin pricing is basically built on your P&L statement.
Right.
And so we basically, well, why don't we just price based on what our financials tell us to do, and let's see what that does. Well, then it was a direct reflection of what we were seeing on the financials.
Amazing.
Right. I mean, well, you hear, I know, I think Victor Rancour talks about this quite a bit, and he's open, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity. That's what I thought of when you first were chatting about that, because it really is. I know a lot of people want to flash and dash, I did this much in revenue, but if their financials and their profit and loss isn't there, and they're not making any money, or they're making 1 or 2%, well, that's shit. What else can you do to be able to do that? The thing that I like about what you said is that you also will, and this is different from a lot of companies, and not just software companies, just companies in general. You're like, okay, well, What's the biggest issue that a business owner faces? Well, okay, well, it's not being able to read a profit and loss statement. Well, how can we as a company help our people that come to us as a software company get better at the thing that they struggle with the most? Well, we're just going to directly help them find somebody and hire that person to get better at their business. Like, it's so simple. So simple. Yet it's a step, that extra step in terms of building that customer journey that I think a lot of people, including HVAC business owners, when it comes to their own customers, forget about the customer experience.
Exactly.
Yep.
You have to make money to provide for your employees.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pay more than your competition pays, right?
Mhm.
If you want the best, if you truly want to be the best company, you got to pay and get the best employees, offer the best benefits, pay yourself. I mean, when I was barely getting a paycheck, my goal was to be 100,000-aire. I wanted to make 100 grand one day. And so from the very beginning, one of the things I learned from my banker was, well, put it on your financials that you're earning 100,000, but you don't have the money to pay yourself yet. But put the 100,000 in there and start charging for it.
Mm-hmm.
And now today, my number is 250. If you're owning your own business, you need to be making 250 grand minimum. Or otherwise, go make 100 grand, 150 grand as a tech or a salesman, right?
Yep.
You've bought yourself a job at that point.
Yeah, don't buy a job.
Yep.
And if your goal is to make 300,000, 400,000, whatever it is you want to make, start charging for it today, and it will happen. That's the only way it's going to happen. Now, there's more to that. You just can't start charging and not give value back to the customer, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to create a whole culture and value proposition. And there's an old saying, the customer is always right.
I
and
disagree.
as far as the service, I disagree 100%. As a service company, that is wrong. You know who's the most valuable person is the actual person in front of the customer.
The employees.
Yes, employees. And when we turned our business around was when we got everybody together in our organization and said, look, the customer isn't always right. The customer isn't our focus anymore. It's the number one thing. Our focus is everyone in this room now. Everyone that's in this office is going to do everything they can do to support every technician in the field, whether they need help with getting someone out there to help them, whether they need help doing proposals so they can get their quotes signed and sold. You are going to focus on helping the technicians to be successful. And Mr. Technician, I'm going to pay you more. I'm going to pay you more because you deserve to be paid more. All I ask from you is show value to your customer. Take the time to listen to Mrs. Jones. No one else is listening to her. Her husband's not. Her kids aren't. So if you listen to her, she's going to buy from you. So stop talking, start listening, and give her the value of what we're going to do, and take your time and get the job done right. And it just manifests itself, and it does it so quickly. And so now you have, real simply, you have a way of running your business that's going to be profitable, and you understand what profitability is because now you know how to read financials. That's all you really need in this to be successful. I'm not a college educated guy. I didn't go to college. My claim to fame is I graduated in the top 100 of my class. I'm just fortunate there was 81 of us. It's just that what I was able to do and what entrepreneurs need to do is learn from your lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can do that, you'll be fine. But never gloat on your successes, and don't think that when you are being successful and there's money in your pocket that you can let your guard down. That's when it comes apart. Things change.
No, it's true. Nothing fails like success. First and foremost. Another quote that I just wrote down, and this was John Wooden, always told his players after the game, when you walk out of the locker room, anyone that sees you should not be able to tell whether you won or lost the game based on your behavior, based on your reaction, based on how you're are showing up, they should not be able to tell the result of the game. Never allow yourself to get too high or get too low, right? Also wrote down the greatest customer service is
unless you win a championship. That I will say, gloat all the fuck you want.
There you go. Or you hit that 250 goal you set for yourself, right? Just celebrate a minute and then go set the next goal.
And then you look forward to the next thing, right?
That's right.
Well, and that was Nick Saban. If you ever watch Nick Saban celebrate after a national championship, he holds up the trophy, passes it off to his assistant coaches and his players, and then he's on the phone getting ready to recruit for next year.
Yep.
It's remarkable to watch, but he's always forward focused and like, what's next? All right, here we go. How do we keep moving forward? And he'll celebrate with his players and he'll acknowledge them. And he's the first to say that they win because of the team, not because of him. But his focus is always on what's next. How do we keep building? How do we keep growing? Because again, nothing fails like success. I also loved what you had to say about customer service and how the number one thing that you can do for customer service is employee satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
That's absolutely the only way to do it. And they will take care of your customer, right?
Yep.
If they're happy, the customer will pick it up.
Always.
Your people are your most important asset.
They're the brand.
Mm-hmm.
It's not me. I'm never in front of a customer.
Yep.
And something else that I picked up on was not once did you mention the word failure. You mentioned numerous times that there were these lessons that presented themselves to you. And instead of taking that, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, it was 1 step back and 3 steps forward, 4 steps forward. But it was these lessons that presented themselves to you that allowed you to keep moving forward. So I'm curious, what were some of those biggest setbacks that allowed you to then set yourself up for the lesson to continue moving forward and keep moving forward?
Well, absolutely. So about 5 years after owning the company, 9/11 happened, and I was doing really well, right? I'd gotten myself to 100,000 a year. I was, I made my goal of making 100,000 a year. And got to think about it. In the 90s, that was a lot of money.
That's a big deal back then. Absolutely.
Yeah, right. So I made my success, and I allowed it to creep in.
Mm.
And I went and built, a very large home on a hill. I could see Dallas. I could see Denton. And 9/11 happened. And nothing happened. We got busier. So I even got more overconfident, right? And so that happened in September, and we didn't start seeing the slowdown because this is a huge economy. The United States is a huge economy, and it takes a while for it to trickle, right? What we're going through now, we haven't really felt it yet. It takes time for this to start trickling through. And I would say approximately about a year later, we started feeling the effects, and my company dropped 50% literally overnight.
Wow.
It was like a year later, 14 months later. We had just started doing air conditioning 2 years before that. So we were still building our clientele. Back then, the rule was 7 years before you were an established HVAC company. You need 7 years of grinding it out, and then you had enough customers to really do something with it. So we were in like year 2, and that summer was kind of mild for Texas standards. Just little things that kept creeping up. And that was my reminder that I wasn't this big ass guy that I thought I was, really quick. Guys, we built our dream house. We built a dream house, moved my family in. We sold that house 7 months later. I got out, went back to my banker, and I said, "You know where I'm at?" He goes, "Yeah, you're in trouble." I go, "I'm in trouble. I really am." And he goes, "Let me tell you something. There's a golden goose, and it's called Berkeys. And this golden goose has laid you several golden eggs. And now she's not laying any eggs. So what do you want to do? Hang on to those golden eggs that she's given you and she dies? Or do you want the golden goose to live and you sell the eggs?" And I sold the damn house. I sold the cars. Right. And then I went back to work. And that was what the catalyst for a lot of my innovation with the margin pricing, with memberships. Memberships, I don't even know if we have time for that, but I'm going to tell you what. You want a profitable business, this is how you get it. 300 memberships are not going to make a profitable business. It's not going to happen. We were broke, and I needed to figure out a way to get some customers to even like us, and we were hanging on by a thread. In fact, all of my employees would come in. We got to the point where we were 3 days a week, so that I didn't have to pay them 40 hours to survive. And I told them all, every day that you're off, that I'm not paying you today, if we all stay diligent, I'll pay it all back to you when we can, in which we did. So, so they were like, okay, it's kind of like money in the bank, even though we were all suffering together. Unfortunately, we were small enough. They believed in what we were doing. So that was one of those situations. So again, I had to remind myself, all right, don't fall in this trap, and let's continue to innovate. And so memberships is what pulled us out of it. In 2003, I introduced margin pricing, which helped us get really on top of our financials. And then we offered a $99 membership. And what you got for that was discount pricing, the 15% off thing that we do, member, non-member rate. We gave them a tune-up on all of their air conditioners. In Dallas-Fort Worth, there's like 2.2 air conditioners is the average amount of AC units in a house. and so we have houses with 8 of them, 10 of them. It doesn't matter. I mean, they're all over the place. And so we offered a $99 agreement, and we would tune up. I don't care how many you have. We'll do all of them for the same $99, not $99 each. $99, we'll come tune up all of them. Guys, it saved our company. It spread like wildfire because everybody else was getting, $79 each, and then they had a membership that was $249, and on top of that, and a tune-up back then was $500 by the time you did 3 or 4 systems,
Right.
And we did it for $99, and we did a very good job. We did it very thorough, and we made recommendations, and we started listening to the customer. Well, in no time at all, we sold 6,000 memberships. I think in about the first 2 years, we sold 6,000 of them.
Wow.
And then we got up to right around 10,000 or so. So theoretically, that's 22,000 air conditioners under membership agreement that we had. And every 12 years an air conditioner goes out, right? And so that's 8% of 22,000, which is about, I don't know, my math tells me close to 2,000, I guess. If 8% of them went out and you got 50% of them, that's 10 million a year in replacements from your membership base. Not only that, when we had 10,000, our customers were paying us $1 million a year for the membership. We took the $1 million a year and put it in this new thing called Google. And I got out of the Yellow Pages, right? We started putting it in Google. And when everybody else was fighting for their front page on the Yellow Pages, we put, $10,000, $20,000 a month in this Google thing, and we just blew up, right? Wow. And because people were learning about this new thing, and that's how we innovate. I tell you, it was a funny story because when my Yellow Page guy came, those guys would walk in the room and they just, they were the cat's meow. They were the shit of all shit, right? Because they were the Yellow Page salesmen.
They were
right?
yeah.
My Yellow Pages now is fire starting material.
Yeah, I haven't seen one in a long time, so I don't know how I haven't even seen one anymore. So it's been years, but I told him, I said, you know what, I'm going to cancel my membership. Not my membership. I'm going to cancel my Yellow Pages ads. And he laughed. He laughed out loud. He almost spit out over on me when I said that. And he says, what do you? I said, I'm going to Google. I'm taking the risk. I'm scared to death. I'll be honest with you. I'm shaking in my boots right now, but I'm done with your Yellow Pages. You raising prices on me every year. It's taking everything I've got just to get to the front. And I'm going to do this Google thing. And I said, I'm out. And I sent him on his way. And he came back the next day and goes, I tell you what, we'll give you everything you had last year. at 70% of what you paid last year. I said, deal.
Yeah.
I said, deal. So a year goes by, he comes back. And I said, I'm out. And he goes, he laughs again, right? His laugh wasn't as loud this time because another year of Google, another year of Google coming after them, right? And I said, I'm out. And he goes, yeah, right. Well, I figured you're going to say that. So what we're going to do for you is we're going to give you some more ads right here, and we're going to charge you the same price. We're not going to raise it. And I said, no, this time you're not listening. I'm out. A couple of days later, he comes back. He goes, how about 50% off? And I said, no, I'm out. I'm out 100%. And I did. I went to zero in the second go round. And we focused on Google and memberships. And while everybody else was trying to get to the front of the yellow pages, we basically were every position on Google on the first page. I mean, just almost every position. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
early adopter too, and that helps out. But the thing that I look back on is memberships, like I think that's a vastly underused tool in a company's quiver, right? They don't use it enough. They don't need to, like, there's so much that you can do just by adding in a membership, right? $100 per house. What's $100 per house? Like, it's not a lot of money for somebody, and you get a tune up, and it's going to extend the life of your equipment. You get, if anything breaks, you get priority. Like, there's so many good things that can go involved with membership. And, Stacy Ford, Billy single-handedly changed how I do memberships, what I charge and what I include. It was simple and yet mind-blowing. Grab your market with per house, not per unit. And I think that's also a smart play. I mean, you mentioned and uncovered that. So I know and I want to transition into Sera, I think, because I think this is an important part. I mean, we can even back up a little bit with BillyGo and kind of the testing ground if you want. But I know that Sera, one of the big powers behind it is increasing your memberships and how much you can sell and how much you can get in there. Because you think about, and if you ever want to sell your business, memberships are also a tool that can drastically increase your multiplier that you're going to get on your business, because it's recurring.
Reoccurring. That's exactly right.
And we talk a lot about in our agency space, okay, what's your MRR, your monthly recurring revenue? That's a golden stick, and when you have this recurring, it's predictable, and you can make decisions off of predictable income and revenue and cash flow, and which helps to grow a business. So I guess, I'm kind of, you looking at Sera, looking at memberships, how does it help? Walk us through that component of Sera. And even if you want to back up a little bit to, how Sera started, I think that might be an appropriate spot, but I do want to circle back to the membership part of it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, let's stick to the memberships, and then we'll circle back to how Sera came to be, because this is such an important part of what we do. And I really think that everyone in the audience needs to really understand the power of a membership if you do it right. So again, I was coming off of almost total failure, right? Close to 2003, we came up with a membership program. It really did well, but $99 is not going to save the goose, right? So there's training that goes with that, and then the word spread, and they're calling up, can my parents have one of these too, and stuff like that. And so you start adding more and more of those. Now, here's what it was able to do for us, and it gave me the idea that I could shrink my service area, because now the goal was, if I sold enough memberships in a 10-mile radius, I don't have to market and buy gas for trucks driving all over Dallas-Fort Worth. It's probably 60, 70 miles from tip to tip, east to west, 50 miles at least. And so we focused on, how do we own our backyard? And the memberships got us into this thinking that if we concentrated our services in a smaller area and dominated with memberships, no one can come in and take control of us. No one could come in. There was a franchise at the time that was getting really big coming in, and they moved right in down the road from us. And they had been taking over every area that they were in. And we all, we know who all that was, the franchise that started in the early 2000s. And this franchise moved into South Lake where we were at, and we started panicking, a little bit. And I said, I'm not going to worry about this. We're going to be fine. We got memberships. Our customers love us. We continue to do what we do, and we're going to be fine. They moved out of there about 7 months later. They didn't make it. They were gone. And so we defended our backyard. That is the key here, is you got to defend your backyard. This industry is changing by the minute right now. You got competition everywhere. You're the guy that you used to compete against that was just like you is now owned by a PE firm. They got lots of money and they know how to market. So that just changed your perspective on what you need to do for your business. And PE firms are great for this industry, in my opinion. Like, I was a part of one of the first ones. And I think it's really important that you understand that you're going to have to defend your turf, and you're going to have to create that brand in a concentrated area and get more focused. And memberships allow you to do this. People talk. If you offer something good and you talk and you do good service, and they're going to talk, just like we do when we get on Facebook and we get in these groups and we talk and we learn from each other. Customers do that as well in their groups. And that is really, I think, one of the main things that got the guys that were wanting to get into our space. Back in 2010, when I met these two fellas that were in the PE market for other industries, what really intrigued them, obviously the EBITDA intrigued them, because they said they'd never seen EBITDA that high ever in any business. That
nice little pat on the back for that.
Yeah, right. So that was what intrigued them. And then the other thing was, like you said, the MRR. What? There's really reoccurring revenue here? And we're like, yes, almost $1 million a year of reoccurring, right? And so that was where the thought process started. And then we would whiteboard out these ideas, about how we could, start buying companies and take over the industry, 11 years ago. Time flies. And so it evolved, and now the joke I make now is there's more PE firms than there are HVAC companies. So
it kind of feels like it some days.
Yeah. So every new PE firm's getting in every day. So, and you know what? That's a compliment. That's really what it is. If they weren't in our space, then that means we weren't worth being in our space, right? So that's a compliment to us, to all of us in this industry. And you should embrace it and learn from it. If you want to stay independent, or maybe you want to get bigger and do better, and before you sell, or maybe you never want to sell, you want to pass it down to your kids. Whatever your goals are, you need to continue to change. And our industry hasn't really changed to keep up with the changes in 100 years. We're still doing it the same way. The software that's out, is basically built on the same premise of how we run a business today, and it needs to change. You need to evolve, and you need to move forward. And we've got an 8-year, they've got a lot of these companies have at least an 8-year head start on us, and we feel like we're 12, 18 months from being 8 years ahead of them. This is how we feel about it. And because we are looking at every single aspect, which will bring us to BillyGo. Let me talk about BillyGo for a second. So my several of my my former employees, this is pretty good stuff. I better take a drink. Clear my throat for this one.
Now, before we get into BillyGo, should we ask our random question?
Yeah, let's ask around.
I'd be remiss. I mean, it's been our MO since we started. And I was looking at the time, like, let's get a random question in here, just because I think it's a good segue in here. So I queued up one here for you. What do you wish you had spent more time doing when you were younger?
Good question.
By the way, that answer can be anything. It doesn't have to be related to business. It could be related to anything.
Enjoying life, because now at my age, I realize how fast it goes by. It's really, I would not complain one time if I could go back. We get one shot here, and I really think that is what I would have done better. I would have not complained, probably loved more and cherished more, and just all those things. Hello.
So my mom is in
Look at
town
that
right now.
man.
And
Hey, Mom.
I told her, they say hi. She can't hear you guys because I have my
Oh, I
headset
gotcha.
on.
Charlene.
But our biggest fan from day one, it's actually kind of a perfect time when we walked in. We actually didn't script this. I'm like, hey, you know what? You're going to be in town for once when we're actually doing our Wednesday show. So free for to pop in and say hi. And she opened up the door and looked over. She's like, you didn't think I would take you up on that. So she is here in person and on the camera for once. So
Drinking
there you
whiskey
go.
with us too.
Drinking whiskey. So
Hello.
yeah.
Hey,
Cheers.
Hello.
Cheers.
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 It's,
Yeah.
coffee, and I didn't steal any of Thad's Baileys for this one. So cheers.
Oh, you should have put some Baileys in there. So
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
so
Well, they say that you're supposed to have 15 minutes of fame, but I'll just do 1 minute.
yeah.
Still in the show, aren't you? Isn't
Right.
she?
She's
Absolutely.
stealing the show. So
Yeah.
But
Awesome.
I love the podcast, always have. And every time there's a commercial that comes on from Wainwright, Alberta, from a local marketing company for their businesses. And this one lady, her commercial is always about it's not the cheapest or the best price product, it's the best advertised product that does the sale. And I was always going to put that in comments. Do you guys agree with that? But now I get to ask them.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely, I agree with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so here, let me take this off so that way she can actually hear. Hopefully, it doesn't create an echo. So you should be able to hear that. So, what was your response, Evan and Billy?
Go ahead.
Mine was definitely, I agree with you.
Yeah, 100%. I would rather be, as a business, I would rather be known than irrelevant, right? You could have the best product in the world, but if nobody knows who you are or what you do, then what's the point?
Right,
Exactly.
key point right there.
Key point. All right. I
there
will
you
let
go.
you finish. Thank you,
Awesome,
guys.
Norris. Thanks for popping in.
Bye.
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Bye.
all.
Number one fan right there. We'll have to
Number
get our
one
shirt
fan.
to
Been
number
watching.
one fan.
Been watching since day one when Evan and I were just sitting around drinking whiskey, talking about nothing. So
Yeah. And I think this would be the first time Evan's probably ever seen my face, too.
yeah.
Oh, I've seen your
So-
profile picture all the time popping up in the
Yeah.
comments.
Well,
So-
that is true. That is
yeah.
true.
So
Yeah. Cheers. Have a good one, guys.
awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Cheers.
Profound answer, by the way, on what you wish you would do or what you wish you would have done when you were younger. I think that is a fascinating idea and a great question to ask yourself at any time. So I love that. One thing that did pop into my head regarding memberships before we get into BillyGo was just around, I guess the hang up that some owners have had when I'm having conversations with them. And I know the value in having memberships. I've heard you speak about it before, but for those that still have a hang up over $99, like I can't make a profit off of $99.
Absolutely.
Can you speak to that a little bit and what
Absolutely.
that hang up is for them?
I love this question. And so we're looking at the profit as the first sale, right? The $99. Obviously, there is no profit at $99 to go out and do one tune-up, to be honest with you.
Let alone if they have an average of 2.2 units, like there's just no way.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And so the point is, this I can give you directly out of Sera. A member spends at Sera approximately $2,400 a year, where a non-member spends around $900. So are you getting $1,500 for your membership? The difference when you sell it at a higher price? No. What we're doing here is we're creating a brand. We're creating the ability to see these people more than once. So therefore, we're creating trust. In Sera, we have a dispatching algorithm that's called sticky tech. And what that means is if you want the same text to always go back to the same person, because through our A/B testing, we found that that's a very profitable way to run a business. They get to know Joe Bob and they see Joe Bob every time. They're comfortable with Joe Bob. Guess what's going to happen? They're going to spend money with Joe Bob. Yep. And that's what memberships do. It creates relationships. It creates higher average tickets. It gives you the first right to give a proposal for a new system when it times out, when it ages out. You're holding the membership. So you're going to get the first call for the bid. And then everyone else is going to have to overcome your relationship. And on top of, the price part of it or whatever, but your relationship is stronger. You're a pillar in the community. You've shrunk your service area so that you can amass more and more memberships in a tighter area. So now you're a part of the community. So you get your street cred that way as well. Your trucks are seen way more often because they're staying local, and you don't have to stay at $99 once you accumulate a certain amount. And my theory is, from my past experience and my experiences now, that until you have 500 memberships for every million of revenue, you need to be at $99. And once you get past 500, go up higher if you want to. But I never did. And I'm gonna tell you something right now about memberships. And one of the things, I probably don't have a right to talk about, but because I don't get to see this every day, this is an assumption. But I guarantee you, the PE firm that we started, that is one of the largest ones today, have hundreds of thousands of them, right? And they got it. And they've been using this concept from day one, and their MRR is off the charts, right? They have, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they may have 1 million by now,
Right.
but I know they have hundreds of thousands. And so what they've done is now they started charging per service. In other words, it's actually more than $99 now, and it's for each service. So if you want electrical work, it's this much. If you want plumbing, it's this. If you want HVAC, it's this. Because they can now,
Right.
because they have hundreds of thousands of them. So the point is $99 to accumulate. And then if you want to raise your price, go for it. Go for it, raise your price, continue to sell them. You branded yourself. People know who you are. They trust you. Go up on them. But if you're charging whatever you're charging and you still have 300, where's the profit in that? No matter what you're charging. Where's the profit in that? There's no growth. And the thing is we have thousands of KPIs that we're told that we need to look at every day. And I personally feel like if those don't directly affect the 4 main KPIs that matter, then you don't need to focus as much on them. I call those PIs. Those thousands and thousands of PIs need to lead to 4 major KPIs. And those KPIs are margin. You want to know your gross profit, your gross margin, right? You need to know your memberships. You need at least 500 per million. You need to know what your revenue is from each customer that has it versus who doesn't. All these things surrounding membership, right? What's your close rate with a member versus a non-member? All these things you need to know. All right. So you got margins, you got memberships, you've got efficiency. Are you actually being able to measure efficiency? This is one of the things that we do very well. And it's about to drop at Sera for all of our customers next week. Right. And efficiency is one of the main KPIs.
Mind if I ask a question on efficiency before you get to the fourth one? I mean, in case you say the fourth one and circle back to efficiency, but actually do the fourth one and then circle back to efficiency. Sorry, I got excited. I'm like,
So it's the 3 M's. It's margins, memberships, and money. And it equals E squared, or E times 3. It's E3 because efficiency. Because efficiency affects all 3 of those, right? Sure. And you can't improve those without efficiency.
Right.
And today, our businesses are run very inefficiently. We're charging, huge amounts of markup on air conditioning systems, not because, because we want to keep getting higher and higher prices. It's because we're so inefficient. We got to pay our bills. We got to pay our overhead, and our inefficiencies are causing us to get higher and higher, and we're putting more strain on our local businesses. We can't grow because we're competing against lower prices. But we have to be at 75% gross margin on an air conditioning system to make any money. What if you can make money on a 50% gross margin?
Right.
How many more systems would you sell? Right. But you gotta fix the middle. You gotta get efficient in your business. And that's what Sera does. It really helps you become an efficient company. And we measure it. Right. So we can
So,
show you.
so looking at that efficiency, how does one even measure that? Because like I hear it, and this is where I kind of got excited. I'm like, "Ooh, efficiency. How can you measure that? How can you get more efficient as a human or business, as a company, etc." What are some things that you can do to measure that? I mean, I know Sera obviously can help out with that as well. And by the way, in case anybody wants to check out Sera, we've mentioned it a few times. You can actually get them at sera.tech is their website. So it's Sera, SERA.tech. And of course, you can reach them at facebook.com/Sera Systems. But looking at that, how does one go about measuring their efficiency as an organization?
Well, without Sera, it's tons and tons of Excel spreadsheets and infinite wisdom on where to start, right? I've already done all the hard work for you. And so now I'm passing it along to you, right? And so Sera, is the entire process of us building Sera was based on how do we save time? It's about time is our motto, right? It's about the customer's time. How can you do 1 hour appointments when we can't even be on time in a 4 hour or half day window? Well, there's a way to do it. We figured out how to do it because we use, software to do it. We use a computer to do it. Right. And so that's time, right? It's the customer's time. So when you create more time for the customer and they're not waiting around all day and they know when you're going to show up, they're going to tell people. Right. And so that's another way to be efficient. There's so many ways to be efficient. There's efficiency when if you make your tech app that makes them flow through the call to get the information that you want to get instead of, it going all over the place trying to do stuff. Make consistency, do the quarter pounder with cheese thing, up in Canada, what do they call it? The leader burger, I guess.
A liter of cola. No, that's only on the movie Super Troopers. Can I get a liter of cola?
Yeah, there you go. So here in the States, it's the quarter pounder with cheese, but even in Canada, it tastes the same, even though it has a liter name. It uses different measurement, right? And so the way they've done that, and we all know that McDonald's is the world's largest hamburger company, but it is not the best burger, right? But what they've done, they perfected efficiency. They have absolutely perfected efficiency, and they can build that burger in the same amount of time, the exact amount of mustard, the exact amount of cook time on the burger. And that's our theory when we built the tech app, is how do we create this quarter pounder with cheese on every call?
And in Canada, we call it a 0.11 kilogram burger. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We actually call it a quarter pounder.
What was the name in Pulp Fiction when he was over in Europe? He was like the Royale or something like that. That's what they called it. I don't know if y'all remember that movie.
I haven't watched that movie.
Kind of dated me. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen it. But so you start doing efficiency. It's like that. It's like putting together the software in a way that we can take away redundancy. The average one service call has 28 touches by at least 4 people in your business. One service call, 28 touches. We started out trying to figure out how do we lower that number, and we've gotten that number down to 3. We thought we could get to 20, maybe 15, but we were able to knock out 25 of those redundant touches that don't require a human to take care of it. It's like you have a busy day. It's the HVAC season, and summer's getting going, and 9 o'clock in the morning, your dispatchers are already yelling out, "I can't take any more calls." And everybody in the CSR room hears this, right? They can't take any more calls, customer calls. I've got a 10-year-old system, 12-year-old system. Well, I was just told I can't take any more calls, but yet in my training, I was told I got to take that 12-year-old system. So they put the customer on hold. They reach out to the dispatcher and they tell them about it, right? I have a 12-year-old system on the line here. What do I do? Well, hang on. Let me call out, talk to some techs and see when they're going to be done. How many touches is that? Right? Sera can figure all this out in a millisecond. And Sarah's going to go, there's a call on there that she's not seeing. That's an 8-year-old tune-up. Yeah, sounds good on paper. It's 8 years old. It's the tune-up. Sorry, but bye-bye 8-year-old tune-up. 12-year-old system not cooling is now the job we're going to next. And then Sarah will take and put that in the unassigned, and there's what your dispatcher needs to worry about now is, what do I want to do here? Do I want to call this customer, delay them, reschedule them, whatever? And so we've taken a lot of the guessing game out. And as the technicians are out there doing their job, when they get a signed quote, they no longer have to ask a technician how long they're going to be, because as soon as the second the signed quote is signed, the quote is signed, the dispatch board will expand out by the amount of time they just sold. Right. And so if there's any calls that were right up against him, it'll get bumped up to the unassigned and then reassign it all in milliseconds. And this is how we create efficiency. This is how we get more efficient and run better calls first and maybe delay the lesser calls. And it can also understand that these three techs are really good at doing this particular job. And so they're the only ones that actually ever get those jobs. It knows if someone's out of your service area. So it would never even put that on your board. Things like that. And if you're getting a lot of calls or from people that are out of your service area, what do you do with that information? There's a KPI for you. Do you even have with that KPI or a PI? It's a PI for you. Mm-hmm. What do you do with that information? I'd be on the phone with my marketing people and going, why am I getting all these calls out of this zip codes that I said I didn't want to get calls out of? Mm-hmm. Yep. And so Sarah runs a report and said, look, this is how many you got. You need to talk to your guy and they need to fix the problem. And so these are the things that you do for a software to become efficient. And then through all of this, you start creating efficiency, right? See how that starts working? Yep. And then we've taken it several steps further. And that's going to drop next week. Like I said earlier, you'll be able to know the efficiency of every job the second that it's finished. In our software, let's say, for instance, you got a technician and he needs someone to come out. He needs someone to ride with him to go do this condenser or whatever. Sera can track both of those guys. And if they're on a job 4 hours, is that a 4-hour job or an 8-hour job with two guys? It's actually 8 hours, right? Yeah. You paid two people, right? For 4 hours. So it's an 8-hour job. And so when all that's all finished, all the running around's done, everyone that ever went to that call, ever touched that call, all the time's kept up with. And then you compare it back to how much time you put into the price book for how much to charge for that call. And Sera will tell you, as soon as that sucker is signed and finished, you were 85% efficient, you were 40% efficient, or you were 120%, or maybe 100%. Yep. And so you gather these PIs in the system, you gather all these PIs, and now you can go, okay, well, maybe my price book isn't right because I'm seeing a trend here. It's actually taken us 5 hours for two guys to do this job. So I'm undercharging by 2 hours. And that's how you become more efficient. And so you know your pricing is on the money, right? Yep. And that's job costing that's never been created before. This is the first. And this is how we do things at Sera. And we continue to innovate and do things like this. And that's what makes our software different. Now, the thing is, are you willing to accept change? Right. Because those who don't, right. Are you willing to accept change and take a little pain to change your mindset for the better? That's really the issue here is, are you going to do this? Are you going to make this change? Are you going to keep doing it the same old way? As your competition gets smarter and richer and has more marketing and interest rates start going up, no one in the last 12, 15 years have seen high interest rates. That's a good possibility here pretty soon. Mm-hmm. Nothing's going to stop new equipment faster than high interest rate, right? Your repairs are going to go up. I mean, these are things that you need to start thinking about. So what about selling very profitably at a better price because you're efficient? Yep. Then you don't have anything to worry about. Let everybody else be overpriced because they're inefficient. Dominate your backyard. That's really what we got to be doing today, is innovating and changing your mindset. And it's really what it comes up to, and taking control of your company. So, you know what I mean? If you own the company, you should be in charge.
Yep.
Right.
And that's
Grab
how
the
you get
bull by the horns,
yeah, that's how you get the change done, right?
Yep.
It's your company. Don't, make that change, commit to it, and then you'll think yourself, rather quickly.
No, it's, I mean, are you running your company or is your company running you? Right. At the end of the day. And I love what Jeff said earlier, which he's a user of Sera himself, Jeff Packard from Sandy, Utah. I love being able to see accurate numbers. I'm still, and probably always will, continue to customize my price book, but that is an awesome feature. Go Billy. So obviously he loves that price book feature, which again, when you have accurate numbers, which goes back to what you were just talking about when it comes to efficiency, you're able to measure those different metrics to see where it is that you are lacking, where it is that you are undercharging, where it is that you are inefficient. And you can continue to optimize your business to, again, further get ahead of competitors, simplify, innovating. One of the things that really stands out to me, and it's a quote from The One Thing, it's, if you want better answers, ask better questions. When you look at what you've created with Sera, when you look at what you did with Berkeys, and then moving into the holding group and the PE firm that you became, and purchasing more organizations from there, you don't get to that level unless you start asking better questions, because that creates a new realm of possibility of what it is that you can really create. And that is something that has stood out in this conversation far above anything else. When you're the owner, and it's funny because I actually asked this question on Facebook a couple months ago, your number one responsibility is to teach your people how to think. And you do that by asking better questions. And I truly feel like, and without knowing you very well, you are someone who is masterful at this, because you don't create solutions like you've created without asking how. There's got to be a better way, and how can we get there?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been a phenomenal conversation. I did want to ask one other question before we get to our final question, if that's all right, if you still got a little bit of time.
Sure, I'm fine.
So one of the things that you did extremely well was you pivoted and moved away from Yellow Pages and got into Google at the time, because that was the innovation in marketing. Now you're saying there's a massive innovation that businesses are needing to make in terms of operations and getting leaner on the business side of the operations. Do you see some other innovations in terms of marketing that businesses should really start looking at to pivot themselves and position themselves better within their market?
I absolutely do, even though it's kind of the same thing. We've gotten away from what's important is really good SEO. Mm-hmm. Google drives everything still. It doesn't matter if it's Bing, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. They all feed off of Google, right? And Google tells them who are the best customers to show to their customers, right? So think about it like this. Google's business, their job is to make whoever searches for something happy. That's their job. That is it in a nutshell. And how do you become the happy place that they send those people to is what we have to come back to. And so social media is important, but the higher your SEO is, the better customers they're going to show your ad to, or anything that you're doing on social media, anything you're doing on PPC, any of those things. The higher your SEO is, the better customer you're going to get. And I've seen this in the last 3 years at BillyGo. When we first got going, we didn't have a name. We were out there, we were buying PPC, we were building our SEO, and we got trash calls. We got calls that were actually, fix my air conditioner on my car. No matter how hard we worked on eliminating it, they still snuck in, right? And we pounded on making sure that was a negative term so we wouldn't get it, but they would still sneak in. And we would get calls, from people that are just absolutely like, how can I do this for free? I want it free. I mean, I can't afford to pay you. So you get those kind of customers. And as we ramped up our SEO and we started dominating in our area, and I will say that we did dominate our area, and we're only 3 miles from my old company. And we did that on purpose just to prove that we could do this. So very first ones on Google, been there for 20 something years now. 3-year-old company comes in and has the #1 position because we focus on SEO, and then we pay, we do the PPC, but we built BillyGo over a 3-year span into $15 million in revenue in the first 3 years on a 3.5% marketing budget. And so we're just getting back to Google. And then how do you become an authority with Google? Well, how about let Google see everything that the customers are doing on your website? All of our customers are sent to your website. So ABC Plumbing or ABC HVAC. All of our customers live on your website. And so they
Sorry,
spend time
I just
on
want to
your
clarify that. So that's through Sera. All
Yes,
of the
that's through
Sera
Sera,
customers
yes.
are coming to the website. Correct. Okay.
Right. So we have 3 pieces of our software. We have the customer portal, we call it. We had the admin, and then we had the tech app. All 3 of those talk to each other to work, right? The customers live on your website. If you have Sera, we will put lines of code on your website, and then every transaction the customer makes lives on your website. The customers, if they want to see photos, they want to look at their invoices, maybe they need information because they're going to turn it into their insurance, see if they can get paid back, whatever it is, they go to their portal, which is on your website. And so Google's like, wait a second, we sent this person on a PPC call and they're still going back, because we tell Google every time they go back, and they're doing transactions. And because Google doesn't realize that we have memberships, but they see that we're booking them on through the portal. Even when we're doing it on the phone call, it's still going through the portal, right? So they see that we are actually booking these calls over and over, the same customer over and over again. And so we have given them authority. We have given them trust in us, in your company. There's trust now. And then your SEO explodes. And this doesn't take years. This takes months, weeks. It really does make a big difference. And because a third of our business, basically the 3 pieces, lives on your website, we just reinvigorate your website. And that's how we get you to start building your customer base. And so inside Sera, you can pick the zip codes you want to do your business in, and then you buy your ads in those zip codes as well. And you fine tune it. There's a lot of smart people out there doing SEO. I see them on all the Facebook pages and stuff. There's a few guys out there that I really respect what they've done for a lot of these companies. Hey, I've got a turbo to strap on that engine.
Right.
And so that's what we're all about.
That's one of the things that I've loved about your product is, and to put it into technical terms, the reason why Google sees all of this is because everyone has Google Analytics on their website. So Google sees that you have a visitor coming to your website. They're spending X amount of time on your website. They're visiting X amount of pages on your website as they're going through the process of scheduling their appointment. Those are the things that are telling Google that this search result provided a great customer experience because they spent 4 minutes, 5 minutes on the website, right? Google sees all of this.
Yes.
Right. So the more that you can provide a great customer experience, whether you're HVAC or whether you're Google, the more people use you. Right. And so Google is trying to show the best result. As you said earlier, this comes through Google Analytics. That's how they know all of this. The other thing that you've done really well, which I definitely don't want to shine light on, or do want to shine a light on, is the amount of content that you have on your website. You have built out a tremendous amount of content. So there's definitely more than just Sera that has contributed to the tremendous results that you have in terms of SEO, because you've done a phenomenal job at building out all those pages, which is bringing that initial customer to the site. And then Sera's taking over from there to continue to boost that SEO. And like you said, strap a turbo pack to the SEO results that you're already creating. So it's pretty remarkable to see how it's all worked together.
Well, and
Yes,
you
sir.
look at Google, like you mentioned, two words: authority and trust, right? And
Yeah.
like Google's big push for 2022. I mean, 2021 was customer user experience on mobile. Now in 2022, their big push is the EAT strategy. Expertise, authority, trust. And I think their push has always been that way, to get the expertise, authority, and trust. But when you build that in, and what Evan's talking about is keeping users on a page for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes, it actually pushes them further down. And we talk about a bounce rate in marketing lexicon, and that's if somebody comes to your site, they only go to the homepage, and then they leave without taking an action. That's your bounce rate. And so if you're having a really high bounce rate, that sends another signal to Google that you're not an expert, you do not have authority, and they do not trust your site. But when you can keep them there longer, they can go to a second page and a third page and a fourth page. Now you're sending that signal to Google, hey, we're experts, we have authority, but most importantly, people are trusting our company and they're staying on our website.
That's right. That's exactly how it works. And so we open this up to our customers at Sera to do this for Google, and it allows them to really grow their businesses extremely fast. I mean, we didn't buy a company when we started BillyGo. BillyGo was designed to be a beta tester. Once I got over my franchise idea, was to be a beta tester for software. you know and its sole function is to test our product before we release it to our customers, and so it's a testimony to what we do. And I've had lots of contractors come to our office and they don't believe it. We tell them, I mean, we're gonna probably go over $10 million in revenue this year, and we've got 3 people in the office. I mean, it just all works together. People were booking online. They prefer to do that because they're mobile, right? They're mobile phones. Oh gosh, I need a plumber. They get on there. I need an HVAC tech to get on there, and they're on their cell phones. And so we send them right to the site. It looks beautiful on the cell phone. They can book a appointment right then and there. They don't have to get an email and someone to call them back later, because they may get a time on their website, that current website, but that doesn't talk to anything else in the system. And so someone calls them back and go, well, the actuality is we can be there tomorrow, not today, like we said on the online. And so all of these decisions are made in Sera immediately. Sera knows the availability of every tech. It knows their qualifications to do the job that this customer is wanting. And so it knows when to schedule that appointment for that customer. But the way we set it up is we allow the customer to pick the time, even though we control the time they see. And that's what makes the customer happy. So
Exactly.
And
They have choice.
and exactly, they're putting it. That was the absolute first thing we built for BillyGo, was the customer portal. Before we even had an admin to work with, we thought, we don't have any customers. And I told my people that came over, I'm paying these salaries, and we had no business. And we spent 5 months innovating and getting this stuff up and running and building this portal. And so how do we, it kind of came back to that, the old day when I needed to come up with an innovation after 9/11. I came up with the membership. So I was in that same boat again. I needed customers to sell memberships to. How do I get the customers? How do I compete against all these companies that have been in business all this time? And how do I ramp up and not run out of money in the process? And this is what we came up with. And so we built it, and it worked. And when we turned it on, it took 47 minutes to get our first service call. And, and keep in mind, we were all the employees. It was managers, people in the office, techs, installers. We all huddled around in this one room for 5 months, whiteboarding and talking about, I'd ask each guy in whatever department he was in, what can I do to help you? What is it? What would you like in your life when it comes to running your part of the business? And we would whiteboard it out and we'd solve the problem. And so for 5 months, I paid all these people. I had 14 people on the payroll with no business and no attempt to even have any business. And then as we innovated this stuff, and so we turned the website on, and we got our first service call 47 minutes after we turned it on. We had some bottles of champagne there, and we had a couple of people from the Chamber of Commerce there just to see what, kind of make a little publicity about it. And that first call came in. It was actually a water heater from Facebook, 47 minutes after we turned it on. And we popped the champagne and we poured glasses and we were laughing and high-fiving and hanging out. And about 25 minutes go by and they're like, oh crap, who's going to do this call? We forgot about the call.
We got to send someone.
Yeah. So
Haven't run a
we
call
almost-
in 5 months. We got to actually do something here.
right. And so, that's kind of how it got started. So,
But
That's
it's
amazing.
funny, like when you mention, you put your idea and you just go for it, right? And I think that's where a lot of people get lost in analysis paralysis. They're like, I'm gonna wait till everything's perfect. And like, okay, you guys worked on the back end part of the software, but you're like, okay, let's launch it, and then we go. We're like, oh fuck, now we got to actually like service it, right? Like there's all these things that you're pushing for. Just done is better than perfect sometimes, and I think that's the saying that I wanted to bring to that, because it makes a ton of sense. So now, by the way, I will say, if you do want to reach out to Billy, we didn't drop his email earlier, but I know that you're a busy guy, so we're gonna actually drop Everett's email, Everett, because we love him so much. So
thanks, Everett.
so Everett, EVERETT at Sera.tech. He is one of the top guys to reach out to if you have questions, you want a demo, you want to talk about that, of course. But we will show Billy's email, so Billy at Sera.tech. If you do have specific questions, but do reach out to Everett first, because I'm sure that you're a busy guy, and we just want to blow Everett's inbox up. So there we go.
Yeah, go to Everett for a demo, or go to our website for a demo, and you can get, we have several people that can show you the product. And then when you really have just really good questions, like you said, you got to ask really good questions and get really good answers. Email me. I'm open for, debate, as long as we're doing constructive debate and we're talking through all this stuff. I mean, this is a different way of thinking from the norm, and I want you to understand it. And that's what we're working hard on, getting our materials out there so that you can understand more and more of these tidbits. I've only hit on a handful of these innovations, and a lot of them they just happen and you don't see them. So it's just important that you gotta get ready to make that decision. I want to do better. I'm tired of just being tired. Really, at the end of the day, I'm tired of being tired. I want to go home and not take the business home with me. I want to get some rest. I want to get my time back. And that's what we really are striving for, because that's what I was shooting for as I was growing my company, is how do I get some time back? How do I spend more time with my kids? Because I'm a workaholic. I love what I do. And fortunately, I was able to actually take my kids to school for several years, because I was able to figure it out and slowed myself down so that I could do these things. And that's what's important at the end of the day. And and being able to leave, if you're a smaller company, you got to be able to leave it at home. Husband and wife don't need to take it at home anymore. And if you're a larger company, the advances that we made with our software will really help you streamline your company. I mean, you're going to see a huge multiplier on savings. The larger your company is, the larger the savings can be made if you do this.
No, that's bang on. And I've been incredibly impressed with the software itself and what it's able to do. Tony Robbins, the dude runs $7 billion worth of companies, among like 50 companies or something like that. He says the two main things that every owner needs to be responsible for is innovation and marketing. And if you're not constantly asking yourself better questions, looking for ways to innovate, looking for ways to differentiate yourself in the market, this is one of those things that can help you innovate. And I really think that going out and looking at another software, not necessarily committing to it, if you don't feel like it's a good fit for you, then that's fine. But if you don't at least look at it and give it an option and see if it's a better fit for you, then I really think you're cutting yourself short as a business. So I really do appreciate you taking the time to join us. We do have one final question for you. Before we get to that, though, we had a specific question come in from one of our guests, which is Tersh Blissett from Service Business Mastery Podcast. And also Service Emperor, he asks, do you give military discounts on top of your 15% repair discounts for memberships?
Actually, what we do for military and first responders is we do not charge anything for the membership at all. We have a first responder membership program as well, and we actually do a little bit more with that membership. Not only do we do the tune up on the air conditioner, on our standard membership, we don't flush water heaters. We would rather charge for that.
Right.
But if you're military or first responder, we actually will flush your water heaters for you as well at no extra charge for that 99. Well, for $0. And that's what we do for those folks, because maintenance is what they need, and so theoretically they can get away with paying us absolutely nothing. All we ask in return is please tell all your military friends and your friends that are not military, right? That's what we ask, and if we go to a like a fireman's house or a police officer's house, there's probably a pretty good chance that a couple, 2 or 3 dozens of donuts will show up at that exact place where he works, after that service call the next morning.
Nice.
So it's just little things like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Small things.
Awesome. Well, our token final question for you. What is one question you wish people would ask you more, but they don't?
That's a good question. So the one question they ask me more that they don't. Well, I guess if it's for business or personal, it's that's a good question, man. I can't really think of a good one. Because you got a good one, and then you think of the answer, and you're like, oh no, I can't use that one.
It is probably the most difficult question of our show, to be honest.
Yeah. So the one question I wish they would ask me more. Well, what do you like doing in your free time?
And what do you like doing in your free time, Billy?
Hanging out with the family and going to the ranch, and I like things with motors. I like cars. I like motorcycles. I just like things with motors. I even have a mountain bike with a electric motor. So
nice.
So really, yeah. So it seems like I always talk about, Sera, the innovations that I do. How do I think about this? What do I do about that? But no one ever asks, what do you do when you're not doing this? Right.
So do you have an electric motorbike? Because we were listening to an audiobook the other day as we were driving back from the mountains, and it was a Mitch Rapp book, which is American Sniper, if anybody was curious on. I think they made a movie on it too. But they were talking about the scene where he was on an electric motorbike, and he's just like, I went to crack it and he wanted the sound, but he's like, nothing, but it's just like you snap back in it. So do you own an electric motorbike, and is it surreal to drive?
So I own an electric mountain bike. Okay. Right, which is a bicycle that we ride in the mountains, and it gives you pedal assist when the hill's a little steep, so it allows you to ride longer. I don't own an electric motorcycle at this point, or an electric car. I'm not saying that I never won't own an electric car, but I definitely will own an electric motorcycle, because the noise is a lot of the reason why we get shut down on places we go ride and stuff. Right. And so I think that makes a ton of sense for me, because I'm in the but man, when you've got a Porsche screaming at 9,000 RPM, ain't no electric gonna make up for that.
The Teslas will pipe the sound through your speakers to make it seem like you're at 9,000.
Will not happen.
Yeah,
will not happen.
I will say though, when you get pinned to the seat, when that electric motor revs, it's intense. Oh, yeah. You don't hear it. It's still not the same effect, but that feeling is still surreal.
Snaps back.
It's actually
speed.
Yeah.
I've ridden in one of the souped up Teslas, the D, I guess, with the dual motor one. My CTO has one of those. And you're right. I mean, faster than any car I've ever been in as far as that initial takeoff. It's immediate. It's like 2.1 second or 1.9 second or something to 60. It's crazy. And you are pinned.
Yeah.
And and it doesn't last long on that car because it'll eat up the battery. But my gosh, it's crazy. But still, it's tire noise and it's
Totally.
all the creaks and cracks that are happening in the car, and it's just not that flat six spinning at 9,000 RPM that just gets the hair on the back of your neck to stand up. I just don't see how we can replace that.
So now, do you prefer like sports cars or is it more muscle cars?
I'm a Porsche freak. I love Porsches. So I've raced them. I've raced them for 10 plus years. I own them for personal cars as well. And just love every single thing about them. You could probably Google my name, Billy Stevens and Porsche, and probably some stuff would pop up. So
Well, I know what I'm doing after the show.
So I'm sure it's around there somewhere, or it may be Bill Stevens. I don't know how. Either way, Bill Stevens or Billy Stevens in Porsche. It'll, and that's with a V, by the way. Stevens with a V.
Of course.
I'm sure something to show up.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join us, Billy. This was a fantastic conversation. I loved it. I love the insights. I love the insights within the insights as well. I got a lot out of this show myself personally, and I know the viewers did as well. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Cheers, Billy.
Cheers.
Thanks so much.
All righty. Cheers.
Thanks for watching another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, two quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of the show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this show to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.